taking this player who is known to be full of drama, who is known to be toxic in a locker room, who is known to not facilitate the ball well in an offense, who is known not to play defense, who is unbelievably skilled but unbelievably toxic, and trying to integrate him on this team. In the NBA, James Harden has been a bit of a problem child pretty much throughout his career. All the way back on his first team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had a great run. It was a young babyface Russell Westbrook. It was James Harden right when he had grown the beard. It was Kevin Durant. They were a super team and nobody even knew it. And after that, all three of them started getting paid big bucks. They became the stars of their own teams respectively. But James Harden had some habits that started to emerge, like not bothering to really ever play defense almost at all, showing up to camps overweight and out of shape, not getting along with teammates very well, not facilitating the basketball on the court, talking poorly about other people, and just generally having a bad attitude. Most recently, James Harden has been up in Philadelphia with the 76ers, and that was an unmitigated disaster. He ended up at odds with the front office. He was over at a promotional stop in China when he decided to let everyone there know exactly how he felt about the owner of the Sixers. Here is James Harden with his deep thoughts about Daryl Morey.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again. This is what he's saying over in China. Like, people are like, James, we asked about your step back three. Daryl Morey is a liar.
Wow.
So he's just on this. He's saying this while he's under contract by the 76ers. And so he doesn't really show up. He doesn't show up to camp. He says, I'm not going to play. He basically forces a trade. And so they have to trade him to the Clippers. And it's like the worst trade of all time. Now, James Harden is an extremely, extremely talented offensive basketball player. He might be good at defense, but he never plays it.
Wow.
So, yes, I mean, he can score 50 points in a game. If he wants to, he can score 50 points in a game. That's tempting. So the Clippers get him. In exchange, the 76ers get like an IOU and a Cracker Barrel gift card. Like that's basically the trade that got made. Here on Bleacher Report, it talks about the trade. 3 instant reactions to rumored James Harden trade between Clippers and 76ers. For the third time in less than 3 calendar years, James Harden has gotten his wish and forced a trade out of his current situation. That alone, red flag. For the third time in less than 3 calendar years, James Harden has gotten his way by forcing a trade out of his current situation. The 76ers traded Harden to the Los Angeles Clippers early Tuesday morning in a blockbuster that will send Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin, a protected 2026 first round pick, a whole bunch of other things that don't matter. The trade ends 4 months worth of rumors and provides an ugly end to the decade-long relationship between Harden and Sixers president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey. Harden requested a trade in June amid frustration with the lack of urgency for Morey to offer him a long-term contract. The subsequent months saw Harden call Morey a liar in a promotional appearance in China, resulting in a $100,000 fine, and then liken their relationship to a marriage while refusing to call Morey by his name. Me and the front office had a very, very good relationship for a decade. Harden said earlier this month, there was a constant communication. You know what I mean? There was no communication once we lost to the Boston Celtics in the second round of the 2023 playoffs. With the latest Harden drama finally behind us, let's take a look at what this deal means for both teams moving forward, and goes on to give some hot takes about what it might mean for everybody involved. When it comes to the Clippers, they had to make this trade, but they have a potential Westbrook problem. Now, remember, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, they started together on the same team. They had to make this trade. They acquired an all-star who led the NBA in assists last season for a bologna sandwich. Nice.
Wow.
It's the type of trade that, if attempted in 2K, your PS5 would have spontaneously caught on fire. Harden torpedoed his value to the point that the Clippers underwhelming offer were Morey's only option to end this saga. And now comes the hard part. And the hard part is, to sum it up, taking this player who is known to be full of drama, who is known to be toxic in a locker room, who is known to not facilitate the ball well in an offense, who is known not to play defense, who is unbelievably skilled but unbelievably toxic, and trying to integrate him on this team. Russell Westbrook has had some rough seasons and is finally playing great basketball because he has taken a smaller role. He's actually playing his role on the team. And now with Harden coming in, it probably moves Westbrook to the bench. Egos flare once again, and there's just potentially all kinds of problems. The Apostle Paul describes the church as the body of Christ. He says in 2 Corinthians 12, "For just as the body is one and has many parts, and all the parts of that body, though many, are one body, so also is Christ." And importantly, he says, "So if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. And if one member is honored, then all the members rejoice with it." And this, of course, is Paul describing the local church, the body of Christ. If you have one member who suffers, everyone suffers. And I use the analogy when I preach on that passage of Shaquille O'Neal, the most dominant basketball player of all time. I mean, really, literally nobody could stop him. And yet, he had this stretch of seasons where he became ineffective and had to miss a lot of games because of an injury. And the injury wasn't a pulled hamstring, and the injury wasn't a slipped disc. The injury was his big toe. He had serious big toe problems. And now his big toe is like bigger than your thumb, right? So his big toe is a big toe. It's still one of the smaller members of his body. And that big toe would sideline the most powerful player in the NBA, because when one member suffers, everybody suffers. And the same thing is true in a sports organization and on a sports team. And basketball is unique because there's only 5 people on the court at one time, and there's usually only like 12 to 15 people on an entire roster. It's a very small group of people to introduce one potentially toxic player. That one potentially toxic player can make the entire team suffer seriously and dramatically. There is one of Aesop's fables, and these are like these fables for children that were told in the ancient world, but they have so much relevance and so much wisdom inside of them. This one's called The Farmer and the Snake. A farmer walked through his field one cold winter morning. On the ground lay a snake, stiff and frozen with the cold. The farmer knew how deadly the snake could be, and yet he picked it up and he put it in his bosom to warm it back to life. And the snake soon revived, and when it had had enough strength, bit the man who had been so kind to it. And the bite was deadly, and the farmer felt that he must die. And as he drew his last breath, he said to those standing around him, "Learn from my fate not to take pity on a scoundrel." So there are a lot of different types of people that you can bring into your organization and still thrive. And in fact, you need a wide, diverse, life experience and personality and temperament and age. You need a lot of diversity of skill set and specification. The one thing you cannot bring into your organization is a snake. And as much pity as you might feel on that snake, or as much as you might see their potential skill set or their competency, if you bring a snake in, eventually you will get bitten. When you hire, you typically consider these 3 broad categories. In any hiring decision, you must consider not only competency, but also culture and character. When I say culture, I'm talking about the culture that you are trying to create within your organization, or in the NBA's case, the culture that you're trying to create on your team. And if you're a good leader, you're focused on culture. And cultures are protected by values, and values only matter if everybody aspires to them. And so you have competency, which is like, can you do the job? And James Harden can do the freaking job, okay? James Harden can put the ball in the basket. That's the job. He is competent. He's one of the greatest offensive scorers who's ever touched a basketball, okay? He's competent. But you also have to assess culture. Do they fit here? We have a culture of hard work. We have a culture of selflessness. We have a culture of humility. We have a culture of open communication. We have a culture of healthy conflict. Is he someone who can come in and do that? We have a culture of putting the mission ahead of our own personal stat line, right? Can he do all those things? And then there is character. Is this someone who cares? Is this someone who can put others before themselves? Is this someone who I can trust? So competency, culture, and character. If someone is highly competent, but they lack character, or they're highly competent, but you know they will harm your culture, you cannot make that hire. And I think that oftentimes we get blinded by competency. Someone is just so good at what they do. And so we see that snake and nobody else wants them and they've been left out to freeze. And we just think, and it's pride, it's hubris on our side to think, oh man, I can take this snake in if I just warm him up, if I just treat him right, if I just pay him enough, if I just give him the starting job, if I just let them not play defense at all and shoot every time they touch the ball and not facilitate the offense at all. If I can just take this snake in and they can see how much I care about them, then, oh man, they're going to be so appreciative and I'm going to be the one who can finally fix them. And guess what? You can't. A snake is a snake and they have to change. And change doesn't happen by just a shift in situation. Change happens from the inside out. Change happens with a transformation of character. And you hire people not just based blindly on competency. You hire them based on proven past performance in competency, in character, and in the ability to actually uphold the culture that you're trying to create. If you enjoyed this clip, make sure you check out the full podcast and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all new content. You can also support the channel at patreon.com/Clayton Tyner. Link is in the description below.